I just want to share my love of these stories and these characters on this channel. And we're going to start at the very start. The first chapter of the first novel, A Study in Scarlet. And what we're about to find out is that these stories start with Watson's story. See, before Watson had the incredible experiences of being a part of the adventures of Sherlock Holmes, Watson went through some horrible experiences, some horrifying experiences in the Afghan War. And to understand how amazing it is, to understand how Watson's life completely changes after he meets Sherlock Holmes, we have to have a look at the horrible things Watson went through before he met Sherlock Holmes. The Second Afghan War broke out. On arriving at Bombay, I learned that my corps had advanced through the passes and was already deep in the enemy's country. I followed, however, with many other officers who were in the same situation as myself and succeeded in reaching Kandahar in safety. There I found my regiment and at once entered upon my new duties. The campaign brought honors and promotions to many, but for me, it had nothing but misfortune and disaster. I was removed from my brigade and attached to the Berkshires, with whom I served at the fatal Battle of Maiwand. There, I was struck on the shoulder by a Jezail bullet, which shattered the bone and grazed the subclavian artery. I should have fallen in the hands of the murderous Ghazis had it not been for the devotion and courage shown by Murray, my orderly, who threw me across a pack horse and succeeded in bringing me safely to British lines. So this poor guy's been through something incredibly traumatic. He comes back to England, he's staying in London, and Watson describes London as a place full of loungers and idlers. And Watson describes his experience in London as a meaningless and comfortless experience. It's comfortless because Watson has no outlet to release or express all the traumatic things he's been through. And it's meaningless because Watson isn't making any meaningful connections with anyone. Watson has been through something incredibly intense and dramatic, and the most intense and dramatic thing the average person in London has been through would be nothing, absolutely nothing compared to the traumatic things Watson's been through in Afghanistan. Now here's the thing about trauma. Trauma is caused by a painful experience which impacts the brain and changes the brain in such a way that the brain is now wired to expect more of that painful experience. Trauma is when the brain is so affected by a painful experience that the painful thing you've gone through is still going on in your head. So trauma can be a hard thing to deal with, and I believe that's what Watson was dealing with when he comes back to England. Now, here's where things get interesting. Watson is staying at a very nice hotel in the Strand. He's staying at a very nice place. My impression is Watson has been through a horrible experience, so he feels he has the right to have a nice experience. So he's staying at a very nice place. But nice places tend to be expensive places, and before Watson knows it, he finds himself in a very desperate situation financially. Now, serendipitously, during this time, Watson bumps into an old friend at a bar. Someone tapped me on the shoulder, and turning round, I recognized young Stamford, who'd been a dresser under me at Bart's. The sight of a friendly face in the great wilderness of London is a pleasant thing indeed to a lonely man. So Watson tells Stamford a bit about what he's been through in Afghanistan, and Watson tells Stamford about the situation he's in. And Stamford tells Watson that Stamford just so happens to have seen a colleague of his earlier that day, and Stamford's colleague just so happens to be looking for someone to share rooms with. So Watson is very curious. He wants to know more about Stamford's friend. He's very interested. But Stamford tells Watson, almost warning him, that Stamford's friend is a very interesting person. This is how Stanford describes his friend, his colleague. He is an enthusiast in some branches of science. He's well up in anatomy, he's a first-class chemist, but he has not taken out any systematic medical classes. He has amassed a lot of out-of-the-way knowledge which would astonish his professors, but he himself is not a medical student. So Watson is thinking, what on earth? Why is this guy studying all this stuff if he's not going into medicine? What is this guy doing with his life? Who is this guy? So Stanford tells Watson that his friend spends a lot of time at the chemical laboratory at Bartholomew's Hospital. And they go to meet Stanford's colleague at the chemical laboratory. And here's what happens. There was only one student in the room, bending over a table, absorbed in his work. I found it! I found it! I have found a reagent which is precipitated by hemoglobin and by nothing else. Had he discovered a gold mine, greater delight could not have shone upon his features. How are you? He gripped my hand with a strength for which I should hardly have given him credit. You have been to Afghanistan, I perceive. How on earth did you know that? Never mind. The question is now about the hemoglobin. No doubt you see the significance of this discovery of mine. It is interesting, chemically, no doubt. But practically, why, man, it is the most practical medico-legal discovery for years. Don't you see that it gives us an infallible test for blood stains? Come over here! Now he seized me by the sleeve in his eagerness. Let us have some fresh blood. Now, I add this small quantity of blood to a liter of water. You perceive that the resulting mixture has the appearance of pure water. The proportion of blood cannot be more than 1 in a million. I have no doubt, however, that we shall obtain the characteristic reaction. He threw into the vessel some white crystals and added some drops of a transparent fluid. In an instant, the contents assumed a dull mahogany color, and a brownish dust was precipitated to the bottom of the jar. Aha! He looked as delighted as a child with a new toy. What do you think of that? It seems to be a delicate test. Beautiful, beautiful. The old Guiacum test was very clumsy and uncertain. So was the microscopic examination for blood corpuscles. The latter is valueless if the stains are a few hours old. Now this appears to act as well whether the blood is old or new. Had this test been invented, there are hundreds of men now walking the earth who would have long ago paid the penalty of their crimes. Indeed, criminal cases are continually hinging upon that one point. A man is suspected of a crime months perhaps after it has been committed. His linen or clothes are examined, brownish stains discovered upon them. Are they blood stains, or mud stains, or rust stains, or fruit stains, or what are they? That is a question which has puzzled many an expert. And why? Because there was no reliable test. Now we have the Sherlock Holmes test, and there will no longer be any difficulty. His eyes glittered as he spoke, and he put his hand on his heart and bowed as if to some applauding crowd conjured up by his imagination. Now Watson wasn't looking for anything miraculous. He was just looking for a place to stay. But meeting Sherlock Holmes was just the miracle Watson needed in his life. This is how I put it. Sherlock Holmes' passion for solving crime reignites Watson's passion for life. Sherlock Holmes' passion for solving crime reignites Watson's passion for life. But the interesting thing is that when Watson first meets Sherlock Holmes, Watson has no idea what Holmes is doing with his life. But it is clear that Watson can sense the passion Sherlock Holmes has for what he's doing with his life. And I feel that the passion in Sherlock Holmes' soul really brightens up Watson's soul, in a time when Watson's soul could really use some brightening. The Sherlock Holmes stories are written by Dr. John Watson. We experience the Sherlock Holmes stories through Watson's eyes, and through Watson's eyes we see that Sherlock Holmes is someone who makes a difference in people's lives. And these stories start with Sherlock Holmes making a difference in Watson's life. Thank you so much for watching. I want to thank my great friends, Alex Wu, Neil Gomez, Bazad Saleh, Martin Rogers, Daniel Zielinski. Thank you guys for being a great support and incredible creative consultants. And last but not least, I want to thank the amazing Brooke Marchel. The artwork you saw was all Brooke's. An incredible artist, an incredible imagination. She's finishing her last year of art school. And I put a link to her Instagram below. Check her out. I'm a little biased, but I think she's the best. So definitely check her out. And last but not least, I want to thank you. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to do these once a fortnight. And let's see what happens. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.